Imagine a world where Google never became the default way to search the web, because in the mid-90s, it wasn't. For a few strange years, the most powerful search engine on Earth wasn't Google at all. It was a side project inside a hardware company that didn't even want to be in the search business, and it was called AltaVista. It crawled more of the web, answered more queries, and for a while, set the standard that every other search engine chased. Google's founders used it. Competitors benchmarked against it, and at one critical moment, AltaVista even had the chance to buy Google and walked away. The story of AltaVista is how a lab experiment accidentally invented modern search, briefly defined what good search meant, and then lost that future. Not because the technology disappeared, but because the vision around it collapsed. And to see how that happened, the story has to start somewhere completely unexpected. Not with a browser, not with a garage startup, but with a hardware company that just needed a way to break its own machines. In 1995, Digital Equipment Corporation's Palo Alto lab had a problem most companies never faced. They were about to unveil a new line of alpha 64-bit systems, machines so fast that normal benchmarks couldn't actually stress test them. The hardware team needed a workload big enough to expose real limits of the technology. They needed something unpredictable, something messy, and nothing they tried so far came close. So what do you feed a machine that's already outgrown every test you have? While on vacation, DEC researcher Paul Flaherty sketched an idea in a notebook. Instead of synthetic benchmarks, why not point a crawler at the entire web and let the alpha systems digest whatever they found? At the time, the web was expanding at a chaotic pace. Millions of pages, no structure, and no consistent formatting. At this time in history, the web was perfect for overwhelming hardware. Flaherty didn't imagine a search engine. He imagined heat, bandwidth, and disk churn, a test brutal enough to make even alpha hardware sweat. But when he returned to Palo Alto, he discovered the idea wasn't just big, it was technically irresistible. Flaherty brought the proposal to Louis Meunier and Michael Burrows, two researchers who immediately saw the scale of the challenge. They weren't thinking about ranking results or building a consumer product. Their concern was simpler: build a crawler so fast and so robust that it would put DEC's new systems to the test. That framing alone turned the project into an engineering puzzle worth pursuing. If they could keep the crawler alive, it would tell them more about Alpha's limits than any controlled benchmark ever could. And to test that, they needed more than a single machine. The team assembled a small internal cluster, 20 alpha systems wired together with roughly 130 gigabytes of RAM and about 500 gigabytes of disk. In 1995, those numbers bordered on absurd. Internally, the project carried nicknames like Scooter and Turbo Vista, a reminder that this was still a scrappy side experiment. But for the first time, DEC had enough hardware in one place to attempt something no one else had tried: compile a near-complete index of the entire web. When Scooter finally began crawling, the team waited for the crash. But the crash never came. The alpha machines kept absorbing data at a pace no commercial system could touch. Instead of breaking the hardware, the crawler revealed that DEC accidentally built the most exhaustive web index anyone had ever seen. Internally, excitement collided with disbelief because this wasn't supposed to work. On December 15, 1995, DEC quietly put the system online under a simple URL, altavista.digital.com. There was no marketing strategy, no launch campaign, and no product roadmap. From DEC's perspective, this was still a system demo, a way to show what alpha hardware could do under pressure. But the public reaction immediately rewrote the stakes. Within 24 hours, AltaVista handled roughly 300,000 searches. Word spread through Usenet, university networks, and early mailing lists. People stumbled onto the site and immediately changed their browsing behavior. Pages that once took minutes to locate appeared instantly. For many users, AltaVista felt less like a website and more like a new mode of interacting with the web itself. Inside DEC, the team faced a paradox. The most powerful search engine on Earth had been built without permission, without funding, and without any corporate strategy behind it. Now, a systems-wide test had become a global phenomenon, and DEC had to decide whether it was willing or able to own what it had accidentally created. AltaVista's sudden success did not come with a plan. Inside DEC, the engine was still considered a lab experiment, not a product. There was no budget, no roadmap, and no team dedicated to turning it into a business. Yet by the late 90s, it was handling tens of millions of queries a day, a scale that made it one of the most used tools on the internet. But even with global dependence, AltaVista had no place inside DEC's strategy. DEC itself was collapsing. Years of declining hardware revenue pushed the company toward a sale. And in 1998, Compaq acquired DEC in a $9.6 billion deal. At the time, the largest technology takeover in history. AltaVista came along for the ride, almost as a footnote. Many Compaq executives didn't even know AltaVista existed until the acquisition process was already underway. Suddenly, a research side project became a surprise asset inside a hardware giant. Compaq's leadership quickly realized they were sitting on a massive amount of traffic, but instead of treating AltaVista as a search engine, they viewed it through the dominant business model of the time, the portal. Portals were designed to be one-stop entry points for the web, pages packed with news, weather, email, and shopping links. Yahoo was thriving with this approach, and Compaq believed that AltaVista should follow the same path. But Compaq didn't hold onto AltaVista for long. In 1999, as the dot-com boom accelerated, Compaq sold a majority stake in AltaVista to the investment firm CMGI. Overnight, the search engine stopped being a quirky internal asset and became a standalone internet company, one expected to act like a full-scale portal, chase an IPO, and compete in the frenzy of dot-com valuations. This was the moment AltaVista's original identity began to slip. The homepage started to fill with new services, shopping.com integrations, deals with Hotmail, attempts to blend e-commerce, news, and search into a single experience. But every new feature competed for space on the screen, creating a mosaic of priorities that pulled users in different directions. What had been a clean, purpose-built search engine was now trying to become Yahoo and Amazon at the same time. And while AltaVista grew sideways, something else was happening in a small garage in Menlo Park. Google, still in its earliest form, focused exclusively on search. No portal features, no e-commerce integrations, just a cleaner index, faster ranking methods, and a homepage with almost nothing on it. Where AltaVista expanded outward, Google refined inward, improving speed, relevance, and simplicity. And users started to notice. Inside AltaVista, leadership began to see that the portal bet wasn't landing. By late 2000, CEO Rod Schrock stepped down, and AltaVista attempted its first major course correction. The company stripped away many portal elements and tried to refocus on core search technology, but the timing had shifted. The market no longer saw AltaVista as the leader. Google's reputation had solidified, and users were increasingly drawn to the clarity and precision that AltaVista once pioneered. The technology that put AltaVista ahead was still there, but the window to define search had narrowed. By 1999, AltaVista no longer resembled the tool it had introduced to the world. The homepage was dense with modules, partnership banners, shopping tiles, and media integrations. Search was still present, but it wasn't the center of the experience anymore. The interface had the weight of the portal, not the speed of a search engine. At the same moment, Google's homepage appeared with a starkly familiar design. A white background, a single box, no ads. For early web users, the contrast was unmistakable. Google looked like AltaVista in 1995. AltaVista looked like a dot-com business plan. People began shifting their habits accordingly. What once felt like the fastest way to navigate the web now felt slow and cluttered. And behind the scenes, AltaVista missed a decision that could have changed its trajectory entirely. In its earliest years, Google quietly offered to sell itself for around $1 million to AltaVista. Several AltaVista engineers supported the acquisition. They recognized the promise of Google's ranking model, but AltaVista had no dedicated budget for acquisitions. Its owners were not invested in search as a strategic priority, and the opportunity passed. Instead of buying Google, AltaVista doubled down to an even bigger portal identity. As the dot-com bubble accelerated, AltaVista prepared for a major IPO. The company positioned itself as the destination site built around information and e-commerce, precisely the direction its leadership believed the market rewarded. But in April 2000, the dot-com crash collapsed those plans overnight. The IPO window vanished. AltaVista was left with the expenses of a portal and none of the public capital it had counted on. With revenue pressure mounting, AltaVista tried to undo years of design decisions quickly. By 2003, AltaVista had changed hands again. CMGI sold the search engine to Overture, a paid search advertising company that had built the business model Google would later perfect. Overture absorbed AltaVista's index and technology as part of its broader push into search infrastructure. Internally, teams began removing portal features and rebuilding search as the core experience. The goal was to restore what had once made AltaVista essential, but the momentum had shifted. Google was now widely understood as the cleaner alternative, and its results were gaining a reputation for precision. AltaVista's late course correction could not reverse that trend. And then another ownership change sealed the transition. Months later, Yahoo acquired Overture, and with it, AltaVista. Yahoo merged AltaVista's index into its own search infrastructure. The brand remained online, but the search engine behind it no longer operated independently. By 2004, AltaVista.com was effectively a Yahoo search front end. The pioneering web crawler, ranking system, and architecture that once defined the web search's experience had been folded into a larger platform. Meanwhile, Google expanded the very idea that AltaVista had introduced. Google's evolution into PageRank-driven indexing, knowledge graph systems, and structured information retrieval built on the insight AltaVista had surfaced in 1995, that the web could be crawled at massive scale and organized into something navigable. Google refined that template and extended it far beyond search results. And many of the people who built AltaVista watched that evolution up close. After AltaVista's decline, several early engineers moved on. Michael Burrows eventually joined Google. Louis Monnier noted the contrast between AltaVista's shackles and Google's freedom to search as a first-class priority. Across interviews, the sentiment was consistent. AltaVista never lacked technical vision. What it lacked was organizational support at the moments when it mattered most. And the end arrived quickly. In July 2013, Yahoo officially shut down AltaVista. The URL redirected to Yahoo Search. The crawler that helped reveal the shape of the early web became part of its history instead of its future. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Offline Museum. If you want more stories about the hidden systems and history behind the internet, subscribe for more.